Hello everyone! Welcome to the channel. I am Old Man Hitch and this is 20 Hours with No Man's Sky. It's an extremely controversial game that I do not recommend you buy. I'll just go ahead and say that up front. And we're only going to really discuss briefly why I think it's bad, because I think anyone looking for that kind of information, it's out there. It's very detailed discussions on why you should not buy this game. However, around 750,000 of us do own No Man's Sky, and only about 5,000 people are playing it on a daily basis as of yesterday, September 12th, which is a month after release. So imagine that. 750,000 people own the game. A month later, only about 5,000 people are playing it. And so instead of crapping all over it, I'd like to maybe focus on where I'd like to see the game go in the future, because there are a lot of us out there who own it, and we're stuck with it. We're never going to play it again if things don't drastically change. Maybe if it gets opened up to modders, or if the dev team decides they need to do the right thing and go back and fix it. I don't know what the answer is, but I do know things do need to change, and so let's begin with the good stuff. The first 2 hours is really interesting. I really enjoyed the waking up on a strange planet, needing to fix my gear, salvaging equipment and stuff like that, fixing my spacecraft to be able to lift off. It's very enjoyable. Exploring your first planet, it is exactly the essence of what they were trying to go for throughout the rest of the game. However, it doesn't carry through to the rest of the game, and I'll get more to that in a second. Visually, this is a great game, although a lot of the planets kind of feel like it's a bad Dr. Seuss LSD trip. There's lots of purples and reds, and in nature, you know, I'm kind of one of those that believes that if we find life on another planet, it's going to look a lot like life on this planet, because things that worked are going to work again, unless, you know, selection pressures are drastically different. But, you know, you don't see that a lot in this game. There's a sun, there's a planet. It's a lot like the other planet that you saw, but I'll get more to that in a minute. There's wonderful music and sound effects in this game. That's one of the really positive things about it, in my opinion. It runs relatively well, but it does crash enough to be noticeable and annoying. Another thing I really like is the seamless switching between controller and keyboard and mouse. I have a hard time flying with mouse and keyboard, so I switch a lot when I play, but I've also been spoiled by mouse and keyboard so much that playing anything first person on foot with a controller bothers me, especially if there's lots of aiming. So I like to switch back and forth, and it's very seamless. You don't even notice the transition at all. Overall, there is a skeleton of a great game in No Man's Sky. You have a nearly infinite universe with exploration, mining, crafting, survival, and combat. It's almost everything you could ask for, but it was too ambitious, I think, and they couldn't pull it all off with enough oomph to make it interesting. And so they just went ahead and put it out because they just had to make money or something. I don't know. I don't understand why. But anyways, we're not going to dwell on that too much. So I'll briefly talk about what's wrong with it and why you shouldn't buy it. There is no multiplayer in this game. You'll never run into another person. And that means that you can never make anything to sell to anybody. There's no real economy. If you sell a bunch of copper, it's not going to affect the price of copper on the market at all. The prices are pretty much stationary. It's you know, if you wanted to play with your friends, huge drawback. Okay? Some of the UI, especially the Galaxy selection screen, is terrible. I wrote about this a little bit in my review on Steam, but I describe it as the worst interface screen I've ever experienced in playing a video game. Okay, so let me talk a little bit about why I hate this screen, and it needs to be changed and improved somehow. Okay, so when you first open this map up, it centers on the stars, the star system that you're currently in. Now it shows you all these little white lines that connect to other stars are pathways that you could possibly travel. Now, this is like my third or fourth solar system, so I should be able to find a star cluster that I came from before, right? So, no, that's not it. Let's see, is it up here? No. Nope, that's not it either. Maybe way up here. Nope. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to get back to anywhere I've come from in an easy, orderly manner. And you can, like, even if I tried to like free roam around to try to find it, the moment I try to focus on a star, it zooms in and I lose all perspective of where I was. So I have to go back to the home solar system and try all over again. And it's all just trial and error. Whereas if you actually had a little pop-up tooltip come up with every single solar system that's connected, that you could literally just scroll down and it gives you like whether or not you've been there or whether or not anybody's been there, or how far away it is, yada yada. That would have been so much better than this. I don't understand who approved this and thought it was a good idea. They obviously didn't play with it very much, because this is horrendous. Like, this is the kind of thing that makes me throw controllers. I just hate it. I never hated an interface in a video game more than this. Hate it. Okay. Anyways, that's all I wanted to say about that. The game is extremely repetitive past hour 3 or 4, which is what most people seem to be freaking out about, because at this point, it's too late for a refund. And once you go past that 2-hour mark, they're not going to get you a refund. There's even a special box on the front of the No Man's Sky page saying there is no special cases for this game. If you go past 2 hours, you will not get a refund. And that's kind of what sucks, because the first, like I said earlier, the first 2 hours or so is interesting. But once you start doing the same thing over and over and over again, you're like, this is not worth $60. I think $60 for this game is a ripoff. And if the game was priced at $30, I don't think it would be such a big deal. Basically, once you've visited one solar system and planet and moon, and you've seen the space station, and you've met the aliens, and you've seen the clusters of rocks that are very repetitive, you've seen everything. And I think that's where you realize that you have lost your money. So enough complaining. Let's talk about how to fix this. We need to bring people back to this game, because I think there's something here that's special, and it needs to be played, but it's going to be forgotten. Fixing this game is going to take overhauling or adding content to almost every aspect of the game. Now, multiplayer won't be one of those things I'm going to suggest. I don't believe that multiplayer is even going to be an option because of the way the game saves and updates. I just don't think it's possible. And that's okay for people who don't mind, or maybe they're even looking for the solo experience. I mean, those people exist. Here's just a few things that I think might bring some players back. First, let's start with harvesting. Harvesting, currently, you see these giant blobs of minerals scattered around the planet. You run up to them, and you shoot them with your mining laser, and chunks of mineral magically fly into your inventory. It's weird, it's not natural, and it's buggy. You can mine out the bottom of a blob, and the top will just float, suspended in midair forever. Now, over a decade ago, there was a game called Star Wars Galaxies. It was an MMO in the Star Wars universe, and it had some of the most interesting and meaningful resource gathering mechanics I've ever seen. In fact, the entire crafting scene in that game was amazing. And I'm shocked it's never been copied or improved upon. It's just, you don't see it. Basically, every planet in Star Wars Galaxies had its own resources similar to No Man's Sky, except that copper on one planet might have been better or worse than copper on another planet. In No Man's Sky, copper is copper no matter where you find it. Now, that allowed things that you crafted in Star Wars Galaxies to be greater or lesser in quality, and it also gave the minerals themselves more or less value. You began harvesting resources by surveying the landscape, locating a pocket of desired minerals underground, and then you set up extractors. Player-built machines that mined out the resources for you while you explored or fought and leveled up and did all the fun stuff that you wanted to do. The harvesters needed power power was created using special power generating harvesters. It was a fantastic gameplay loop, and I hope I get to see it again someday, maybe in No Man's Sky. I tell you all this because the mechanics would be wonderful for No Man's Sky. You could land on a planet, and instead of staring at giant blobs of resources shooting a laser for 20 minutes, you survey, you set up your collectors, and then you're free to explore and craft and do all those things I'm going to talk about next. Secondly, crafting. It's extremely limited in No Man's Sky. All of the customization in this game is non-cosmetic, and it's very limited. You can't craft vehicles, armor, weapons, housing, satellites, or your own spaceport to store your ships even. You only get one ship at a time, so it doesn't really matter, but maybe someday, right? Give the alien NPCs quests. Let them desire player-crafted items, and they'll reward you based on the quality that you deliver. Or how about a robot companion that can survey, harvest, and fight alongside you? All of these things would improve the gameplay loop by adding new layers of achievement and strengthening the game's economy. Right now, there's almost no reason beyond buying a bigger ship to even worry about the money. And finally, the last major thing that will bring people back to No Man's Sky is conflict. Much, much more than the occasional space battle that's just like the last one you had. There needs to be bandits, criminal organizations, freaky cultists, just anything. Let me craft some armor and weapons and go take on a fortress of bloodthirsty clowns in order to save a town full of people suffering from coulrophobia. Give me a difficult animal to fight. Pretty much even the scariest looking creatures in No Man's Sky are a 1 or 2 hit kill. Basically, the only way you can die in this game currently is if you fall asleep at your keyboard mining and your life support runs out. Those are just some of the major things that I think could change and bring people back to this game. Now, maybe bringing people back to the game is not what they really care about. Maybe they've got their money and they're done. But hopefully, they do the right thing and fix this game. And I think it's really sad to see how it's turned out. But anyways, guys, let me know what you think of my ideas. If you have any suggestions that you think should bring this game back, let me know in the comments below. Please like and subscribe, and have a great day.